Hey, good morning. Just sitting here enjoying a glass of water. Do you ever think about water and why it's so important and some of the characteristics that make it so special? I do all the time. So why don't we head inside and we talk about that?
So let's talk about water. I think about water in 3 states. Can you find water that's a liquid? That's the easy stuff, right? I take a bath in it, I wash my clothes in it, that's what I drink. That's what we think of as water. Then I can think about water as a solid. Ever put ice in your drink? I do all the time. I also do my snow dance, right? Or like trying to figure out if sleet's gonna fall. Those kind of things is where water becomes solid. We get ice. Then water can also be in its third phase as a gas. When I see water as a gas, we call that vapor. Some people call it steam. So you look, and water can be in 3 phases. Now, I can also find all 3 of those phases at the same time. If I put ice into my water on a hot day and some of it starts to evaporate off the top, and I'm looking going, I'm not drinking my water, but it's going away, I can see all 3 phases at the same time. It can happen. Now, while we're looking through and we're going to get introduced to one little droplet, and I'm looking at what is water made of. What do I call water? Some people call it easy. Well, do you have any H2O? That's what I'm looking at. 2 hydrogens and 1 oxygen. And that tells me there, the 2 is hooked to this H, so it's 2 hydrogen and 1 oxygen. High quality H2O, right? So where do we find it in nature? And what we're going to do here in just a minute is I'm going to walk you through a story with this little guy in droplet form going through the many phases that we've talked about. So let's recap the terminology so when we find them in the book, we can capture them. So the first is evaporation. I'm going to erase these. Evaporation. What does my water do when it evaporates? It goes from its liquid phase. It goes from liquid to gas. Can you think of an example? Can you think of think about the wide ocean and how big that it gets. And the neat thing is about it is no matter how hot it is outside, it can never evaporate all the water at the same time. So I always am going to have a ocean to go back to swim, or I have water that's readily available to me regardless of whether some of my water is going to evaporate. Okay, so now let's talk about condensation. This is when my gas form of water is going to turn to liquid. Now, I can see this on a really hot day if my air conditioner's on and it starts to get those little beads of water on my windows. It also, take a cup, put water in it, put ice in it, and set it aside. And you will see that as that water melts and if your cup starts to sweat, it went through condensation on the outside. So let's talk about the third. And that is our Precipitation. Our rain, our snow, our sleet, our hail, the little things that we were so looking forward to this year and didn't get any of. So, well, the rain at least, we got plenty of that, but the other stuff we didn't get so much of that I would have liked to have. So precipitation is when the liquid falls from the clouds. Oops, wrong word. I think you can all give me an example too of precipitation. Now, when I look at these, right, I can always look at when I got ice. Ice can melt, and when ice melts, it goes from solid to liquid. Then I can heat that up, and if it starts to boil, it can also go from liquid to the gas. I can have where that gas is going to condense down in the clouds, and when it gets too heavy in the clouds, that gas turns to liquid, and then it gets way, way, way heavy, and that liquid starts to fall from the ground. So I want you to think about these terms when we get ready to look at our book. And we're going to follow drop all the way through one of these cycles to see if we can find our terminology. So we're going to turn this little guy, our H2O, into drop, and I'll see you in a minute with our book.
So when you think of water and you think of the water cycle, we know that it goes through these phases. It can be a liquid, it can be a solid, it can be a gas. Water melts, water freezes. So I wanted to share with you one of my favorite books. I know that it is a picture book, but I want you to think as this little drop of water goes around the world about some of the terminology that we use to describe water and the various states that it comes in. So think about your vocabulary: evaporation, condensation, precipitation, that freezing, melting. When is it a solid, and what does water look like when it's solid? What's it called? When it's a liquid, what is it doing? When it's a gas, because water can be all three at the same time, or we can see it in different parts. So here we go with a drop around the world. Raindrop, take us to the skies. Teach us how to vaporize. Condense us so that we can flow to places only raindrops go. Cycle with us through the trees, underground, beneath the seas. Please explain the things you do, your special tricks and changes too. In fact, some symbols are shown in black, would be most helpful keeping track. Now, show us how you work and play. Let us tour the world the raindrop way. Then afterwards, when all is done, we'll share your secrets one by one. P.S. If we lose you, don't despair. We'll find your face on each page somewhere. Nestled in a cloud near Maine, little droplet longs to rain. Though not yet big enough to fall, it waits with others, still too small. When or then a venture starts to blow, on wings of wind, it's off they go. Sailing in the ocean cloud, moisture feeds the droplet cloud. We see the clouds, and he's up there somewhere. Here he comes. The journey leads to southern Spain. Drop has grown, it's time to rain. It falls on the cape of a matador who fights a charging bull once more. But luckily, when red is waved, drop is shaken, off and saved. It quickly sizzles in the heat, evaporating in retreat. Then off to Switzerland it flies, Mountain climbing winter skies. The vapor freezes in midair, and magically a snowflake's there. Alpine peaks all powdered white invite the snow to spend the night. This delicate and airy flake drifts down on a frozen lake. One April day it melts away, meandering its way toward May. Icy nights refreeze the drop, its solid state commands a stop. But warmer mornings let it flow. Stop and go, stop and go. Finally, our drop of rain roars a river's glad refrain, free and fluid, flowing fast, free and liquid, loose at last. Suddenly the rhythms break, drops dumped in a man-made lake. A reservoir outside Lursor gives drop a brand new job to learn. Pumped and filtered, purified, the health inspector satisfied. Underground in a maze of pipe, raindrops, now the drinking type. It stops at a spigot, meets a dead end. What's beyond? Around the bend. When the knob is turned, the secret's out. Clean water drop pours out the spout. Drop runs into a trough head first, where cow laps up to quench her thirst. Raindrop races through the cow to glands that milquify somehow. Mixed up in a pail of milk, it's poured in a glass as smooth as silk, but slips from Heidi's little hands and form a puddle where she stands. Don't cry, Heidi, over the spilt milk. Puddle drop is warmed away like a helium balloon at play. Its milkiness is left behind. Vapor pure, it's been refined. Sunlight lifts it oh so high to cirrus clouds that fly the sky. Speeding south to desert lands, Sahara waits with thirsty sands. Sand dunes fold their hands in prayer, pleading for some moister air. But like a tease, our drop blows by. No, not a cloud stops by to cry. As vapor adrifts at a lazy pace, drop finds itself in a jungly place. Water, water everywhere. Rainforests have such humid air. The air is warm above the pools, but over land it quickly cools. The sudden change from warm to cool turns drop to fog. It's nature's rule. Camouflaged in a ghostly sky, it collides with a monkey swinging by. Drop gets a lift on a curly tail to a swimming hole on a jungle trail. Gravity pulls at the drop over the falls. It cannot stop. Lost in the midst of colored spray, that drop is off without delay. Overseas, our drop is sped on electric flight in a thunderhead. Monsoon winds forewarn Mumbai, a raindrop army storms July. Driven down the wind by force, raindrop has no choice, of course. It floods a gutter, then the street, pushing people off their feet. It sweeps a bike and swamps a car en route to an open-air bazaar. There it topples a mango cart and vandalizes Asian art. Flooding drop flows back to sea, but in its wake leaves tragedy. Drop takes a dive like a submarine, an environmental life machine. It's needed by the fish below to fill their gills, to swim, to grow. Hypnotized by the rolling motion, it's lured down deeper in the ocean. Weight is heavy on its shoulder, squeezed in darkness. Drop is colder. Drop surfs the waves to a coral reef, reflecting color beyond belief. There it gently laps the sand, rocking back and forth to land. Australian children come to play by the water's edge this sunny day. They build a tower, sail a boat, sea drop fills their castle moat. Shallow water warms up quick. Drop does a disappearing trick. Swinging on a breeze trapeze, it's off to meet the Japanese. In Stratus style, without a doubt, Drop'll burst its cloud and tumble out. Drenching drop makes gushy dirt a perfect mud pie for dessert. On a mission seeking deep, through the cracks it tries to seep, passing worms and bugs that creep, and animals curled up asleep. Avoiding stones and bones that block, it passes through some porous rock. How far down? It's hard to tell. Drop runs into a farmer's well. There it waits till it's hoisted up by bucket to a drinking cup. That swallowed drop is lost within, yet it finds an exit through the skin. As a bead of sweat on farmer's nose, it drips off the tip onto his working clothes. Joined by a soap and water team, drop hangs on line and turns to steam. Drop looks east to greet the west. Pacific winds do all the rest. Circling, circling, drop is dizzy. Changing weather keeps it busy. Cumulus without a care. Where will it go? It knows not where. North winds quickly claim the cloud. No dilly-dallying allowed. Falling temperatures cause a change. Freezing drop starts feeling strange. It flaunts a fancy frosty face and wears a coat of crystal lace. It whirls and swirls in Arctic air. It hibernates with a polar bear. Then, much to our playful flakes' delight, two tiny cubs are born one night. Together, the snowflakes keep them warm in a baby blanket in the storm. Frozen land waits long for spring, and then at last a wondrous thing. Melting snow and sunny days dress tundra in a brilliant blaze. Seeping in the thawing earth, drop finds a seed and gives it birth. When buttercup is blooming bright, drops exhaled in a vapor's flight. Next, it rides the jet stream express 1,000 miles, more or less, to downpour over Yellowstone, which makes the tourists moan and groan. But each drop's needed to make things grow since the water table's running low. Drop dissolves ingredients like minerals and nutrients. Sucked up the roots of an aspen tree, it makes a fast food delivery. It saves a life and brings relief, and then escapes through a hole beneath the leaf. Evaporated once again, will it return? It knows not when. Condensating on a speck of dust, drop heads home in a mighty gust. New England weather brings surprises. Water's there in all disguises. But cruising to the coast today, drop brings rain to Cape Cod Bay. The sun peeks through a patch of blue before the passing showers through. Raindrop bends each ray of sun like little prisms, having fun. They paint the sky with colors bright, a miracle of hope and light. Our drop makes a wish from the rainbow's glow, a hope for a future of mankind below. Let the children take care of the water on earth, conserve it, protect it, and value its worth. Now, can we go back through and look? Did you find ways that it evaporated? That all of a sudden it went from this liquid water, this little drop, and it poof, seemed like it disappeared, but he was still there. Did you find times when he was condensating on that where it looked like he was on the plants and he was coming back down after he fell through precipitation when he was our little raindrop? And condensating, it looks like sweat beating up. Could you find experiences where he was freezing or he was melting? Could you see where this little raindrop through the water cycle is solid and liquid and gas? And that he's always changing, rearranging, but he's never truly gone. This little water cycle is what drives the power of life. So now I hope you understand just a little bit more about how one single drop of water is so important and how it can travel all over the place in a short amount of time, just given the cycle. It doesn't go away, it just transforms, and we see it again through all of our spaces. Well, I'm going to get back to my water now and this really pretty day, and we will see you next time.